when I was going into the picture, and Glenn was living his life and going into the world unframed, going into the pictured reality, because in the pictured reality, as it is, say, here, there's the photograph of a person, and then you have a drawing of a person, and then you have a stick figure, those free framed and then unframed. Here, if I call him Paul or Glenn, and then I call him Paul or Glenn, but if I call him Paul or Glenn, the head and body, then it gets funny because the subject and the object are splitting apart. Now, if I was to, and here this stick figure is pricking his finger with a pin, and I wanted to understand where the pain was that the stick figure felt. I was interested in the pain that he felt when he pricked his finger, and I wanted to prove that stick figures live lives. I wanted to go into the picture, which is in the history of trompe-l'oeil or realism. When I was in school, I realized that you had two ideas about what superrealism was. On one level, you had Richard Estes and Chuck Close, which were making incredibly detailed, perfectly rendered images of an environment or a person. And that would be considered superreality, super real. And then you have someone like Frank Stella, who was simply painting a canvas, or Robert Ryman, who was painting a canvas and it was very aware of its structure. And that was reality, and that was super real. So you had two different ideas about what reality was. One is the construction and one is the image. And what I was interested in was going into the image, and not so much concerned with the construction of the painting, but not even so much concerned with the way it was painted, but I was interested in, and remain interested in, the psyche's ability to enter the picture, which is what we do, because when we're living our lives, all we see are pictures in front of us. Our eyes give us pictures, and we know that's real, and we live our life within that. If someone's coming at me with a knife on the street, I'm going to get out of the way, because I don't want to be hurt. Although what my eye sees when the guy is coming at me is simply a pattern of light. It's a pattern of lights and darks, but it has meaning in my head, and I'm there. So if I say it's only light patterns that I'm reacting to, then pictures themselves, like in movies and all the media, become rivals of the everyday reality. Although they're not. They represent another reality that we live in more and more and more. I would say that with the internet and everything else, we used to be living, perhaps a while ago, more in the blue area, and now we're more in the black area. We have shifted the whole consequence. My son has to be super aware of the black area, much more than I was as a child. And I think it's causing some issues in quality of life. But here nor there, the point is that I was going into the comic book reality. Here's a dead comic book character. This is a multiple I did for Documenta in '94, or 92. 92. It was 92. Yeah, it's 10 years ago. 20 years ago. Is that 20 years ago? Mm-hmm. 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Was it 10 years ago? 20 years ago. 20 years ago. 20 years ago. And this was a multiple that I made for that, because I was interested in the death that took place in the comic strip. And here, at the time, these are photographs that I took about where I was living. And so they're just details of, like, the telephone, the toilet paper, just various, an unmade bed. This is my aunt and uncle's bed here. This is in Enid, Oklahoma, so forth. And so boiling potatoes or vegetables. This was this photograph was taken in Geneva. This is Adelina von Furstenberg's car. This is how I would separate all my work. And so and this is me in a trance, in a hypnotic trance, and I am in my almost 30 years old. But if you look at that picture, you would swear you'd say that's an 8-year-old.
Yes, absolutely.
Wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not just the way that I'm there. And you see that. It's not. It's just a fiction. This was in the 70s. And and then looking down the stairs, where there was something almost theatrical. This is the same period. This is actually very much the same period as Cindy's Untitled Film Stills. So there's kind of a filmic element there. This was, her film stills were like 78, and these were like 75. Wow. 74, 75, that era, that period. And of course there's a definite relationship to, say, conceptual art, Baldessari, and, but mine had to do with, and then the photographs of light, because I was interested in the light pattern, what my eye sees, and the fact that this is it's a photograph which is reflecting light off of it from here, but it's of emanating light. The emanating light is what I was, emanating light in relationship to the reflected light. So I was taking lots of photographs of lamps and of light bulbs, which again, with another friend of mine, James Welling, he spent a lot of time doing that. He's still doing it. This is Paul. He was a director of Artist Space, or the chief curator of Artist Space in the 70s. Helene Weiner hired him. He used to be a student of Helene Weiner. She is the founder of Metro Pictures. And this was in the back of Artist Space. I wanted to take a photograph of a person. So it's similar to Glenn. Glenn, the stick figure, I wanted to have a photo of somebody to go with it. And this is just Paul standing there and me taking a picture of him. You see that again and again. But the photograph, this was all published by Daniel Lau, and you can see there's a lot of yellow in it, and I think it has to do with Daniel thought it was the wood, that this part was what did it, but it could have been the fact that there was no air, or the fact that maybe there was an issue with the chemicals. With the chemicals.
Fixation. It happened in the lab.
You think it happened in the lab? Yes.
We have an additional biologism, and I talk over that happened too.
And it's fine.
And the photographer said it happened in the lab.
Similar, you know.
And Pinocchio.
Pinocchio, yeah, that was in Enid. That was in my aunt and uncle's house. I just took a photograph of Pinocchio. And again, that's like the stick figure, because that's what I was doing, is I was proving